Welcome to the Big Movement Podcast. If you're ready to create results and make huge strides in your business, finances, personal development, and health, then you're in the right place. Pushing past excuses and powering through procrastination can be a challenge alone. Here, you'll get the support, tools, and knowledge you need to get to the level you desire in your business and life. Let's get started with your host, Byron Ingram.
And welcome to another episode of the Big Movement Podcast. And today we have a special guest. We have Mike Broadwell, who helps people create their own marketing messages, and info product trainings using a breakthrough process that focuses on people getting better at communicating what they do as opposed to marketing in the usual sense. So we'll really dive into that today. So let's give a warm welcome to Mike Broadwell. So welcome, Mike.
Hey, Byron. Good to be here.
Oh, awesome. So tell us a little bit about yourself, because as I read your information, I thought, well, this is different. Not marketing in the usual sense. Okay, I'm curious.
Yeah, right. It's there's so much out there as marketing, and I really came up with it because a lot of the people I've worked with have been holistic practitioners who are probably the worst people on earth as far as marketing. And then I also done a lot in England. I lived there off and on for over a couple of years, and the English, I used to joke, the only thing they hate worse than dentistry is marketing. So, dealing with them and their inability to market. I put on a workshop there, and I would tell people, why don't you promote the workshop? Well, I did. I put it on Facebook. It's like, do it more than once, but they would put other stuff over and over on their Facebook. But when they were in part of the platform, they wouldn't promote it. It's like, what?
Wow, that's mind-blowing. Like, I thought you're supposed to promote something.
Yeah, it's a very different attitude. It's much more reserved. So what I really found is that there's a huge fear, especially in that segment of the population, about marketing. And I understand it. I mean, they're worried about the FDA coming down on them. And a lot of them are just, by nature, they're really intuitive and they're kind of touchy-feely maybe. So they're not get out and promote myself and aggressive in that way.
Right.
So I really realized a whole different approach that is much more holistic, really. And the more I began to understand it and work with it, the more I could see that this is really the secret to everything in life. It's just most of the time we stumble into it in one or two ways, but not in every way of life.
Right. Oh, definitely. Everyone has a different path, and sometimes it just comes down to someone putting the right signs in front of you so you continue to go along it versus feeling away around in the dark. Imagine if you're going down a country road, if your lights went out, it's not going to be pretty.
Right.
Like, I don't think we're on the road anymore. Why is that? Because we just hit a tree. So you want to try to avoid that. So now, how did you get into marketing?
Well, my longer background is I'm actually an engineer by training. I went to Georgia Tech way back in the old days, and in the mid-'80s, I guess. It's been a while. And was an engineer for a few years, but moved fairly quickly into sales and technical sales, engineering sales, which is kind of a blend of engineering with selling. Mm-hmm. And have done that most of the last 25 years, up until about 5 or 6 years ago. I got laid off from my last company, and I just kept doing online stuff. I'd started just kind of learning online marketing about 10 or 11 years ago. And was doing it kind of part-time, just learning it. So I had done well enough by the time I got laid off, just that I just said, all right, I'm not going to go find another job. I'm just going to do this.
Right.
And but I think it really helped me in that what I was doing most of the time was walking into different places for 3, 4, 5 a day at times, and trying to figure out what do they need, what's their problem, and then I had to very quickly think of all the stuff I had to offer a solution to them, or maybe an alternative if this wouldn't work, maybe suggest them something else. But I had to get very quick at really seeing things and pulling pieces together, understanding the problem in a pretty quickly, and just knowing how to blend all the suggestions and solutions together. So I think that really equipped me to help people with marketing, because there's all so many pieces out there, right?
Oh yeah. Oh, totally. I kind of like to use the analogy to describe marketing. It's a bowl of warm Jell-O. It's going to fit whatever mold you put it into.
Yeah.
But you've made that's quite a switch to go from engineering into marketing, because you think about the typical engineering mindset. it's very structured to marketing. It's so fluid. How did you go about that switch? Because some people that they want to do that, but to expand their thinking, it can be painful.
Yeah, I think part of the benefit for me was I've always been a bit more of a right-brained engineer, so I never really enjoyed just sitting and working for weeks and months on end on a circuit board or that sort of thing, which is kind of your stereotypical engineering job.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really kind of an introvert, so one of the reasons I went into tech sales is I thought, well, I should really just learn to be more outgoing. And I thought, well, that'd be fun. I get to go see what other people are doing. I won't be stuck doing the same thing. And then I realized, too, that in a lot of ways in engineering, you can pretty much get driven into obsolescence because you tend to get in a company, you do a certain thing, and they just do it and do it and do it. And then one day, some new technology comes along, and you're out of date because the company's just had you doing this thing. And so you might have to move to Cleveland or somewhere, to get another job doing that. So I didn't want to really be stuck. And I figured the hardest thing to outsource to especially non-native speaking people would be sales.
Right.
So all those kind of factors were what I kind of led me into the sales part. And that's what I really enjoyed, is just being able to see a lot of things and learn about a lot of different things and learn to communicate and fit the pieces together.
Oh, and that's great. Especially when you think about sales is the one aspect every business needs. It doesn't matter how large or small it is, everybody's got to sell.
Yep. And what I did, a lot of it was service-based selling. So I would come in and really offer solutions. So it was a different than, selling a commodity like shoes or something, where you're pretty much. So in most cases, the clients at least needed something or wanted to see me. So I wasn't just trying to. I've sold things that people didn't really want. So I've been in some really good companies and some pretty poor ones, trying to sell stuff. And so I've kind of run the gamut, so I can appreciate having a product. My last job was with a major company that was just a door opener. People just heard that company name and, yeah, come in, sure, But having previously sold stuff that nobody had ever heard of and didn't really want, it made me appreciate the value of having a door opening brand, I guess.
Right, exactly. And I'm sure that had to play a role in terms of your mindset with marketing today. Is to build when people would hear the name of a company and suddenly the doors are open, like, well, that was easy.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things. Starting out, people probably put too much emphasis on branding or can. A brand is something you do build over time, hopefully, but just starting out, it's pretty hard to build up a brand. I mean, we see all the traditional advertising where it's just brand awareness, and that's not really that useful for a solopreneur or somebody just beginning.
Right.
But it definitely helps. I mean, the power of a brand is undeniable. I mean, look at there's a 3-letter telephone company that offers internet that bought out the name of the same company from way back. I won't spell it out in case they want to sue me or something, but they just have garbage service. It's just terrible. And yet they're not the same company at all, but they just bought the name out and people don't know the difference.
Right.
And
Oh, definitely. And people are aware of that, or they might not be, of knowing that, is this scene coming from before? No, not really. So branding is one of those things that it can be a double-edged sword.
Absolutely. You can set expectations that you can't meet. And the old version of this company was pretty solid, and the new one is just not.
Right. Oh, definitely. Now, you started working in the online arena long before the last job transition. How did you get your start in it?
Originally, a friend of mine had written a book, and he's like, well, can you help me market this book? And I'm like, all right, well, I have no idea how to do that, but I'll give it a shot. And so it got me interested. No, I should really learn what I'm doing here. I mean, basically what I ended up telling him was he had a following. I said, well, just get these people, wholesale it to him real cheap. He just wanted to get it out and about. I said, just wholesale it to your people that already like you and have them go sell it, and they'll spread it around. That was so. That was kind of my big contribution, but and it got his print cost way down because he could order several thousand books at once. And but it got me thinking, well, I should really learn how to do this. And so I had a neighbor that when I moved to this area, I'm just a little bit south of Nashville, Tennessee. And when I moved there from Atlanta, I met my realtor one day. I met a lady in his office who I mentioned something about, can you recommend a cleaning service to clean the house out before I put anything in there? And she said, oh, me and my daughter and my mother will do that. And it turns out it was these three women that lived together. And one had been recently divorced and moved across the country with her mother and her daughter. Mm-hmm. And she turned out to be really technically savvy and liked doing computer stuff and really wanted to work at home. And so I kind of partnered up with her and said, well, all right, well, I'll kind of fund stuff and strategize it and learn about it, and I'll just let you do it. And we tried several things. But what we hit on the second time, the first time I wanted to do it, and the technology, I couldn't really get to work like I wanted to start with, but I tell her that, you talk all the time. We need to monetize that. We need to do interviews and telesummit. So let's do a telesummit. So that's how we really made a good breakthrough, was doing a telesummit. And she turned out to be really good interviewing people, and we did quite well with it. We had done some other stuff with some SEO. I found an MLM juice that was unknown but new, and I said, these people don't know how to rank anything on SEO. So I joined it and got her in it, and we got to the first rank on Google, and it had a pretty good commission. It had like a 30% commission, 35% commission.
Okay. And
so she would take phone orders, and just put the credit cards in, and it made a couple of $1,000 a month, I think, for a while, at least $1,000 a month or so. So, we did little things like that kind of got started, and then did the telesummits, which did quite well. Mm-hmm. And then got into one of those boiling bunny situations where we had joint ventured with somebody who turned out to be really a bad egg, and that was kind of bad. So that happens too. So, the internet's got every possibility out there, both good and bad, I guess. But
right.
So anyway, that's kind of it. It was really just started out trying to learn it and kind of went through the long learning curve. And that led me to want to do what I'm doing today, because I saw that a lot of things people are offering is not the most efficient way to do things.
And, okay. Now, why do you say that? What do you say that people not offering what's the most efficient?
Well, I remember I paid a huge amount of money to this guy for a program starting out, and it was how to write an ebook, and he had this magic formula. I think he was pretty good at it, but the first thing was, okay, you're going to build a website. I'm like, well, I can build a website. Okay, that's not a problem. But I was on these calls, and people are like, what's a domain name? And I'm like, this is just wasting my time.
Right.
And I thought, you're charging people $10,000 for this program. Build them a dang website. They joined to write an ebook. And yes, you need a website to sell it, but it just really frosted me. And then I remember talking a couple of years ago to somebody, and she had just paid a marketing consultant $12,000, and yet I'm trying to get my WordPress site to work. It's like, you paid somebody $12,000, and they're letting you goof around trying to figure out a WordPress site. They can't just do it for you.
Wow.
That just really frosted me, because that to me is. And there are people out there that do that. I think they just fish, for the big fish. And then if you don't know what you're getting into, by the time you figure it out, it's a year down the road, and they've led you around the golden path. And whether intentional or not, as you know, there's plenty of people that you can buy a $7 book on how to be a marketing consultant, and they go put your fishing line in the water, and you might catch a fish every now and then.
Right. Oh, yeah, definitely. It's kind of scary when you think about that. If you see people that they want to say, oh, look, like they're a marketing consultant, they're a life coach or whatever. And I've met people along the way, and I thought they couldn't coach someone how to get out of the open end of a barn. And they want to help people.
Yeah. We ran across someone who was selling a huge program on how to create a nonprofit. And, their whole strategy was, this is so complicated that people won't follow through with it. And, that was really bad. So there are people like that. And that's not to say most people are, but it's just all that together. I just really wanted to find a way to give people, like I was at the time, how do I give them the best way to succeed starting out from kind of square one, or ideally further along than that, but a lot of my clients are just starting from square one. But ideally, my ideal client was more the kind of the Experts Academy, if you're familiar with that, the Brendan Burchard type program, which is a great program about how to build your expert status, and really good people. A very high level of people go to those programs, from my experience. Small business owners, very competent at what they do. And, so they're getting some great strategies, great training. But what I found almost all the time talking with people is they just kind of gloss over their core message and their core market, all the key elements, and they're jumping into, how do I set up my autoresponder, and I need this and that, and like, well, wait a minute, what are you selling here?
Right.
And so that was really my ideal client, because I just knew so many that had kind of a half-baked idea that were competent enough, but they were going to shoot themselves in the foot.
Right. Oh, definitely. And it's one of those things, I can relate to that, of going to different seminars, and you see people like that. They get fascinated by the technology. Like, oh my gosh, this would be amazing. But then when you look at what they're putting out, you're missing the point. You're forgetting about, you have to build the relationships with people, leveraging technology, not just leverage the technology. You're talking to people, not numbers out there.
Absolutely. And then it's on the other end, there's a lot of people that just kind of throw up something almost illegible or just so vague. And, you're just saying, well, who's going to even figure this out? And they're not going to figure it out. So it's all about this ability to see ourselves as other people see us, which is the hardest thing there is, right?
Right. Oh, totally. And people need to take that moment to look at what they're doing and figure out, is this the message that I want them to receive? Because people tend to forget communication is a two-way street. It's the message you're putting out there, but then there's also the message that the people are receiving.
Yeah, and the one that they're receiving is the only one that matters.
Right, exactly. Doesn't matter what you're saying, it's what they're hearing that matters.
Absolutely. And it really is on you or on me if our message isn't clear. It's not on the person that we're trying to give it to.
Right.
And even more so, they're in a state of mind, and there's a whole lot that goes into how they approach and find your website, find your marketing material. That if you don't really understand that, you just are leaving so much on the table if you even have any success at all.
Right, exactly. And since we're discussing that right now, what have you found by working with clients? Because when you think about marketing, it's a moving target. The things that worked 2 years ago might not be working today. What do you feel are the things that are working best with helping business owners and entrepreneurs to be found online right now?
Well, I mean, really even more deeply than that, the things that always will work is a powerful message. And that part is what people jump over so quickly. Right. They're trying to figure out things like SEO or Facebook ads and all this stuff, which, can work depending on the situation. And now there's, this crazy live stream video and stuff, which I've done some of that periscoping, but there are people doing that, that are making money. I think as far as that's a very important path to take, because it gives people a real taste of you. They're seeing you real. You're not rehearsed. You're not reading off a teleprompter. You're in real time. So they're really seeing what it's like to work with you. How do you respond to questions? How do you come across when people are throwing stuff at you and you got to think on your feet? So I'd say as far as that question goes, really that live stream video is just going to be more and more the future, especially as the younger people get older who don't read anymore or don't have any attention span. You've got to figure out that you've got to connect with people. And that's just the most direct way to do it is just in a real live stream situation like that. So it's that's what I would say is probably the best way to connect right now if you're in something that really, because people buy you before they buy what you're selling them.
Oh, definitely. And I think that's something people forget, that it doesn't matter the product or service. There's so many people offering the same thing. You look at the whole network marketing industry. There's how many people in just the average company selling the same thing. But people want to leave with the company not realizing that doesn't matter. If they don't like you, it doesn't, you could be selling them diamonds, they still wouldn't buy it.
Yeah, and the thing with the network marketing is they cover a lot of things really well. I mean, there's some positive aspects to it, obviously, that you get a real nice product already made and all kind of materials. But the problem with that is that, one, people that really do work it tend to just rely on the company. They're like, this company is the greatest, and their scientists are the greatest, and blah, blah,
Right.
blah. Well, then that company goes belly up, and they're just completely dead in the water. And so if you do have audience members that are doing MLM, that's certainly fine. It can be a great way to go, but you want to brand yourself. You want to find a way to put yourself out there as the health authority or whatever. It doesn't have to be an authority, an expert, but just if you're a health person and you're selling a health product, for instance, don't build around the product, because that product can go away, whether the company folds or they sell it off, or that happens all the time with these things.
Oh, definitely. You have to position yourself, and it doesn't matter the type of industry where people forget it. You think it's just about sales in general. If people don't build up that rapport, like, you think, let's just use medical sales as an example, where they go from one company to the next. At the end of the day, they're still the same person who's walking into every single doctor's office. That if they don't have that rapport, it doesn't matter. That gatekeeper is going to have the door shut. And the same thing when it comes to network marketing. If that company folds, if they've only been promoting that company, that product, well, then they're going to end up being a fish out of water, having to start from scratch, versus if they built up their own brand, they can say, hey, look, that one sucked. Too bad it went out. All right, here's what we're doing now, and not miss a beat.
Absolutely. And the other thing that's an interesting lesson in something like network marketing is one of the most powerful takeaways that the implication of what you're doing is what people really get, not what's on the surface. What really cements things is the implication. Like if you, so you go to somebody and you say, here's the greatest health product in the world. Your life will be so much better if you take this, and you can make money if you wanted to sell it.
Right.
All of a sudden, that's a complete mixed message. You're like, oh, wait a minute. Are you concerned about my health, or are you trying to make money? So you just completely shoot yourself in the foot, unless it's somebody that's an MLM person who that's great. They want that.
Right.
So the implication is that you've got something else going on. There's an ulterior motive. And so where we were successful selling this MLM juice is I created a sales page that just sold the juice.
Right.
It wasn't selling the program. I mean, there was a little bitty link way at the bottom that says, interested in being a distributor or something like that. If you read that far, you could click it. But we just sold the product. And, it was because I knew the mixed message is a killer for that.
Right. Oh, definitely. And people don't think about how that can be confusing. I think that one of the best examples, if you're to look at avoiding a mixed message, is look at a site like Amazon. Even though they have an affiliate program, unless you know where to look for it, you're not going to find it just jumping out in front of you.
Right.
Because people want to go there to purchase products. They're like, hey, would you like to recommend these products here and you can make a little bit of money? No.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, there are certain people that do look for that, and there is a certain type of thing that does well. So again, but if you're looking at that as your main source of income, one is you really want to look at that mixed message, and two, really make it fit what you're doing. So like the people that promote essential oils, for instance, and I use essential oils, and I get essential oils, because they're great products, but it's ideal for a massage therapist or a health practitioner that can recommend them to clients and say, okay, use these oils in the practice. Or give people a cookbook on how to use oils in cooking, or have something that makes it special, not just oils.
Right.
And if you're a yoga specialist and maybe you have a health supplement, well, maybe you make a yoga DVD that gives people a full program that you do the yoga, drink lots of water, eat lots of this type of food, and take these supplements. All of a sudden, you've made extra value, and you're not just competing with everybody on the supplements. Oh, my friend sells those, or so-and-so sells those, or I've already got a different magic supplement that I take, and so it's all about really understanding all the things that are in the mind of the purchaser.
Right. And that's a key thing people forget about. It's understanding what's going on in the mind. How do they set themselves apart so they're no longer competing with everybody else? Just like you're saying, if they create a special program there, well, now they've taken competition out of the equation if they're one of the only people to offer that.
Absolutely. You don't want to be a commodity, because a commodity just drives prices down further and further. And everything is becoming commoditized, and people think in terms of commodity. This is one of the hardest things is that we are all so programmed for this quick, I need a copywriter, I need this, I need all these little bolt-ons so I can have a business.
Right.
And one of the worst things is that people are in a hurry about it. They have these deadlines, because we're all used to having to do deadlines in school and in job and show up every day and do this. But when you put yourself under a deadline, especially for something creative, you're just really short-circuiting your ability to bring something powerful forward.
Right. Oh, definitely. And you have to focus in on what's going to be the most effective long term. So when you take all of that and then you created your program, the Breakthrough Factory, how did you come about doing that based off of everything you were seeing in the marketplace?
Well, what I started from is, again, going to these Burchard meetings, and I particularly remember talking to one fellow, and the poor guy had spent, I think this guy had probably spent $2,000 to fly to California, because Brendan would put these things in, San Jose or somewhere, which is one of the hardest places to reach in the world, airfare-wise, and all these things. It wasn't like, one of your major destinations for somebody. This guy had come from across the country, I think. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, he said, I've got a book here. You can look at it, but it's my only copy, so you can't have it. I said, well, fine. What's it about? He goes, well, it's about how a chiropractor who bowls 250 and plays the spoons looks at life. Like, a chiropractor who bowls 250 and plays the spoons was his unique selling proposition.
Okay. And
you think, you couldn't make up anything crazier. And this may not even be the right three things, but it was this crazy. I mean, it was kind of sad. And I thought, well, who's going to care except your mother? It's like,
right. But
yeah, this guy was serious enough to invest all this money and time to come out to this meeting. Mm-hmm. That may be the worst case, but I one that became a friend of mine, her program was something like, an online yoga program. She was going to PTAs and getting them to promote it as an affiliate, and part of the money was going to benefit the Sierra Club. And I thought, well, that's very plausible and makes sense, except that the problem is only so many people in the PTA club care about yoga, and of that many, maybe a fraction of those care about the Sierra Club.
Right.
So you're bringing these things that are certainly plausible, because there are people that would care about all that, but they don't really flow in the sense. And so I spoke with her quite a while about kind of rethinking that strategy. And so she kind of shifted from that and just focused more on yoga. And so there's all different ways to come up with things, but it needs to really make sense. And so that's what I just saw over and over, is that people just have not spent the time to get that part right. Because if that part's not right, the rest of it's just, if the foundation is not built, you're never going to. It's like in school, if you don't learn your multiplication tables, math is just a grind all the way through.
Right.
And there's just simple building blocks. And I remember I wasn't on the math team, but I knew people that were on the math team, and they could do multiplication tables, in their sleep. And I realized these people just really mastered the fundamentals.
Right.
They were so good at it that they became the top math nerds. It wasn't that they were just geniuses that looked at an equation and figured it out. They just did the basics so well, just like an athlete in sports.
Right. And that's the thing that people have to realize, is that if you start mastering the fundamentals, it doesn't matter what you're doing. Everything else begins to fall into place. That if you're wanting to market yourself online, well, you have to start with having the right message. It doesn't matter. You could learn everything there is about SEO, about Facebook advertising, but if your message stinks, because you like using that example that you mentioned, that it's your with a bowling score, probably not going to mean much to anybody.
Yeah, I mean, it shows he's got a lot of spare time, I guess, or something. But
right.
Maybe it implies he makes a lot of money. I don't know, but and where I find people really, and understandably so, nobody wants to become a marketing expert when they're already a chiropractor or a yoga person or a financial advisor, whatever. they have to do that base business. That's what makes their money. So they want to find a program that will tell them what to do. And there are really good ones out there. Like I say, those were excellent programs. But the thing is, what I realize is that if you really understand what you're doing, you don't have to learn all that stuff up front. What you have to do is really get so powerful with your message and so clear about it. Because we all have in our mind, we're much clearer in our mind than we are when we speak something. Because we all know something, and then somebody asks us to explain it, and then we're like, "Whoa,
Right.
All of a sudden, it's not so clear because our mind just exaggerates how well it knows things. And there's been studies that show this, how much overconfidence people have in what they think they know. It's just way off the charts, and we're all that way. And so, the time that you spend really powerfully honing your message, your core message of your business, that's really marketing at the root. And I tell people, if you're a holistic practitioner, that in the past, many of those people came out of, being just go to the doctor, get my shots and my pills, and then either that didn't help them or they had a bad reaction, or somehow they learned, I can't rely on pills and doctors. I've got to take charge of my own thing. And that's the same with anything in life. To really master it, I can't just rely on a quick fix template that I fill in the blanks with my stuff. You might get lucky. I mean, you might get lucky and the pill fixes your pain. But if it comes back again, you haven't gained anything. You just go find another pill.
Right. Oh, definitely. And that is so important for people to understand. That basis has to be there and to have a process. So with the whole Breakthrough Factory, because it sounds like just a fascinating program, what all do people learn in it? So it helps them get out of that rat race so they can stop investing in the latest and greatest shiny tools, but they're still sitting at the starting line like, well, I learned how to do all these things, but I still don't know what my message is. How do you help them with that?
Yeah, well, the first thing that I did was I wanted to take the technology away from them, because that's what has got everybody so worked up, is I got to get the tool working. I got my website up. I got to get this. And so part of the program is I give people their website. I just say, I'm going to build you a website. And it's not just any website. It's a nice WordPress-based with a Thrive themes, which I'm a developer for, or have the rights to use it for my clients. So it's one of the top themes out there that's almost updated every day. I mean, the guys are phenomenal how well they maintain this theme and all the add-ons. So I give people a very solid website that's, it's not like custom design. I don't sit there and let them tell me to move the furniture over and over. I put it up. We collaboratively choose the colors, choose the general look. I help them get it up there, and then it's up to them to, put the content up later, or add the stuff. But they can either learn to do that themselves or outsource it. But it's done. They don't have to figure out, well, what theme do I use, what platform, what hosting. It's just done.
Right. Oh, definitely.
I give them a membership area. So if they want to have a continuity program or deliver a product, I give them a membership area. It's a fully functional, even has support desk with it. And so they don't have to worry about it. Do they want to use it 2 years from now? I don't care. Maybe they'll find something better. This gets them going. They don't have to spend 2 months trying to figure it out and going into forums and asking, do you use this one or that one? This one works.
Right.
And you get it. So, and now I can even give them an email system if they want to, So it's basically all the tech stuff just so they will put it aside. Okay, this is handled. Come back to the core message. And what I do there is I give them direct one-on-one coaching. It's a fixed amount of coaching, which is 4 hours. Now, typically I end up giving more than that, but that's just a boundary to keep it real. And they use it when they want it. They don't. It's not that they have to show up at a certain time. I'm not their trainer, so unless they just say, you need to kick my butt about this, I don't do that. It's like we get together, we work on the most important part of their message. I give them an assignment to go do, to dig it out of themselves. Who are you? What do people see in you? What are stories in your life that people have remarked to you? And I have them go very deeply into the process of their own background and their story. Some people come to me and they already have that nailed. It's like, I know what I want to do and I do this and this. Great. We don't need to focus on that. We'll focus then on your market. But we focus on who you are, who your market is, and how do we bridge the two? What's the messaging? And those are the three elements that are all intertwined, and they're integral to working together. And some people need one, some people need all of them, some people need, certain percentages of them.
Right. Oh, definitely. So now, are there particular industries you prefer working with over others?
Well, primarily who I'm targeting are people whose knowledge and their so-called expertise or skill, typically they're selling that I'm a specialist in this, or I have this special ability, or I have this degree or whatever, versus a commodity product. Although, we can take a commodity product and build a story around it and build something that makes it very attractive in that sense. But for the most part, I'm looking for the kind of the solopreneur or the practitioner. I do a lot of health-based practitioners, but I can work with almost anybody, but that's generally who I'm looking for. That's going to find the most value is how do I really put myself out there. And it's not even that there is an expert, because that's kind of a hang-up for people. And it really is a misnomer. You don't need to be an expert. If I tell people, let's say you were overweight, you're 100 pounds overweight, and you take the Miami Beach diet or whatever, I don't know these diets, but you just take one of these popular diets that's out there everywhere, and you figure out how to really make it work. Well, in a sense, you're an expert in this how you made this diet work for you, but you're not really a diet expert. You may not even know much about dieting. You may just know that I tweaked it and added tuna instead of chicken, and I rode my bicycle, and I did this, and I got these great results. Well, people want those kind of results. So you could put out a program that how to make the Miami Beach really work for you. And
right.
You're no expert, but you have special experience in making that work. And so it's much easier to approach it as I have something to offer because I've been through the process. Because that's right. a big part of it, right?
Oh, totally. And that in itself is one of those things that people want. They want that person who can help them navigate the waters of what they want to accomplish, especially if they're not that far ahead of them. Because you think about just using fitness as an example. Some people, they might find it difficult to relate to, let's say, that fitness model who's like the epitome of being in perfect shape versus that person like, oh yeah, I've just finished losing 25 pounds. Learn how I did it. Or depending on the situation, they can relate to one better than the other.
Yeah, because the real question in the back of their mind is, how do I know you're the right one? How do I know you're not a con artist, or you're just not incompetent, or what you're doing will work for me? It may be that what you're doing is fine, but it's not right for me.
Right.
And this is the big thing that, this is how we all approach things. So, well, how do I know? How do I know you're the one? And what's really interesting is, again, when somebody comes to a website, it's kind of like a date. Like if you've ever been on a blind date, right? Somebody sets you up with a blind date, and you're kind of like, oh gosh, I hope this person's not some Looney Tune with no teeth, or something. But right. But in a way, you're like, I just hope this is going to be a gorgeous woman who I just love, But there'll probably be, some, horrible person that screams and has bad breath. You have this real
right.
mixed feeling, right? And you're probably expecting the worst, but hoping for the best, right?
Right. Oh, totally.
So that's really how people, to some degree or another, arrive at your webpage. They didn't just, somebody didn't just slap them with it. Like, oh, what am I doing looking at dieting supplements? I'm looking for a car. No, they're looking for something because they want it to be the one. They want this to be the one. You don't want to just keep going on endless dates. You want to find the one.
Right.
And so they're coming to your page. They want you to have the answer. They really want you to have it. But if you think about it, what kills you on a date, right? It's maybe the annoying trait, or the funny, what's the Seinfeld, and oh, she's got funny laugh syndrome or something, all these
right.
trivial things, right? But that can really knock you out because the person's kind of looking for, okay, where's the problem here? Where's the, why are you still single? Or, all these things, right?
Oh,
They're
totally.
looking for that. And so you have to know that, and you have to address those in your messaging.
Right. And it's so important that people take the time to address them, because if they don't do it, then they're not filtering out what comes in their front door. They're just going to have to deal with whoever walks in.
Right, and our mind is all about filtering because we're just constantly bombarded with a gazillion things. So filtering is just a way of life, and we're all filtering, and it's normal. But you're right, it's the filtering, and it's just the fact that anything you really don't have to be omnicompetent. Nobody is even believable, right? If you want to ask a girl out, and I'm the richest guy here, I can also. Strongest, the best athlete, come on, I'm a singer, I do, come on now. I mean,
right.
That's just not, there are people like that. I had a roommate in college that was about like that, but very rare. But usually you're good at one thing and you just want to be competent and okay at everything else. On a date, you're really a good personality, and you have decent teeth, and you don't smell bad, and you can brush your hair. It's like
right.
You don't want to take yourself out in a way that would really just be no, I just can't deal with this one thing. So it really is interesting. The more you delve into the mindset of who you're working with, it actually makes you better at what you do. Because the other aspect is if it's the delivery of the product is just as important as the product.
Right.
And if you're not getting success with what you're doing, because you really market all the way through a product, especially in a alternative health sort of thing, or with an MLM supplement even. If people aren't getting results, people will go to doctors for years and do whatever the doctor tells them, and they never get better. But, the doctor told me, and they'll get on a forum and claim, I'm taking X-Deplorian Galactic that my doctor just gave me. Yeah, that didn't work for me, so now I'm taking, and they just go back and forth, and it's just, ugh. But if you give them a holistic treatment, they almost expect, to rise up and walk, after one treatment.
Oh, yes. They've taken one pill. Well, how come the weight's still there? It took you 30 years to put it on. It's not coming off in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But so that's the world we live in.
Yeah, and so you're especially if you're taking people through coaching or through a weight loss or through a training program, you have to keep marketing them all the way through. You have to keep them with the program. So it's really, how do you keep them moving ahead? How do you keep them seeing the value in what you're doing? And so the big takeaway that's for people like this, holistic practitioners, and really anybody that have to keep people engaged, is your marketing is no different than working with your clients. Because the better you are at understanding that client, how to keep them engaged, how to keep them doing this stuff, how to get them to see the value in it, that's all marketing. That's exactly what marketing is.
Right.
And
definitely.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, keep going.
I was going to say, like those practitioners, they might think, well, at one point I thought health and pills and all this was health, but now I know, no, it's not. It's nutrition, it's hydration, it's mindfulness, it's exercise, it's, all these things is health, right?
Right.
So we tend to think of marketing as, obnoxious sales letters and videos and people screaming at me and pop-ups and all these things, or loud people selling cars on TV. That's marketing. It's like, no. Marketing can be holistic too.
Right.
If you take your message out, and I tell people this, it's better that you write it on a napkin and give it out in an elevator than have a great website that doesn't say anything.
Right. Oh, definitely. It's so important to do that. Now, as we wrap things up, what is one thing that people can do to begin improving getting their message out to the world?
Well, I think the one thing is really to take those three things, but it really all is one thing. It's you, your market, your message, which is just the bridge to those. And really start thinking in terms of that. How powerful is what I'm offering? Who is the market for it? And how do I bridge it? If you can just take those three things and really deeply look at understanding them, because you not only want to niche down and narrow that down, but not only because, it's not just random advice because you can get more search engine terms, it's because you can actually speak to that person. The closer you can match that audience person, you can speak to them. Because you're really carrying, and I tell my clients this, you're carrying on, like you and I are having a two-way conversation. Now it's on audio, so I can't see your facial expression. You can't see mine. So if I'm boring you and you're yawning and, I can't see that, right? But if we were looking at each other, I could pick up your body language. Okay, I'm losing him or I'm boring him or something, and I could adjust.
Right.
But on a sales letter or a video, which is a one-way communication, I can't tell when I'm losing people. I can't tell when they're getting bored or they're getting irritated at what I'm saying. So
right.
I have to craft that message as if it's a two-way message so that it's so smooth and flows along the way that as if that person was engaging with me in that message. And so it's not at all trivial to do this, and it's not a matter of copying templates. And so that's why I think just really getting serious about your value and what you're offering. And how do I communicate that as if I'm having a two-way conversation, but I'm the only person there?
Right. Oh, definitely. And that's so important as a key. If people can treat everything they're doing with marketing as if it's a two-way conversation, it can change so many things.
Yes.
So how can people reach out to you to learn more about you and your business and ultimately how they can, do business with you?
Well, you can go to breakthroughfactory.com. That's breakthroughfactory.com. And on there's a whole outline of the program that I offer because it's kind of unique. It's kind of a hybrid, done for you, done with you program. And there's some pretty interesting testimonial video in there from one of my clients, Helena Summer, where I took one of her videos. She sent me there's like a 2 or 3 minute opt-in video for a webinar. And I just kind of read her the riot act and said, no, this is not your message. Get back to your message. And I kind of hammered out a script and sent it to her, and she redid it. And if you watch that video, you can see how much connected she is. She's pretty and she's good on camera, but when her story really connects with her whole persona shifts. And it's a real interesting study to see that how effectively you can do this can make all the difference in the world, and just the connection that you build with somebody. So that's a great one to check out. And any of your listeners, too, if they want to go to breakthroughfactory.com/review, just do a /review, I will give a free marketing review of your message or your webpage or your video for listening to the podcast here.
Oh, that's excellent. I'm sure people are going to appreciate that.
Sure. Happy to do that.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you for coming on to the Big Movement podcast, because you shared a lot of valuable insights with how people can more effectively utilize their message and communicating with their audience to ultimately grow their business.
Hey, it's been my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thanks for listening to the Big Movement Podcast today. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Now that you've surely been inspired to take your entrepreneurial career and business to the next level, you can stop by the website and get more. And if you're ready to boost your business brand, be sure to grab your free report, 7 Easy Steps to Build Your Brand Today.